The avalanche had buried the hiker at 10,400 feet. Maren Oakes found him 90 minutes into the search, buried 3 feet under compacted snow, hypothermic but breathing, his body temperature at 91 degrees Fahrenheit and falling. She stabilized him on the mountain. She strapped him to the rescue sled. She began the descent alone because her partner had taken a second victim down the eastern route, and the sun was setting, and at 8,000 feet in January, sunset meant 20 below within the hour. She hit the tree line at 8,200 feet. The slope leveled. The forest closed around her. Lodgepole pines, their trunks dark against the snow. The smell of cold resin and frozen earth. She was calculating the distance to the trailhead when she felt it. A shift in the air on both sides of the trail. To her left, warmth. A sudden, localized temperature increase that made no meteorological sense. The snow on the left side trees began to soften. To her right, cold. Not mountain cold, deeper cold. The temperature dropping past the ambient into something that felt intentional, directed, alive. She stepped into the boundary. She registered both reactions with the clinical assessment of a paramedic. The man on the left, golden-eyed, radiating heat, every muscle in his body engaged in the act of not moving toward her, was experiencing an acute sympathetic nervous system response. Elevated heart rate, vasodilation, hormone surge. The man on the right, pale, motionless, his eyes dilating past the human limit into something solid black, had stopped breathing entirely. Not paused, stopped. As if the respiratory system had been overridden by something more fundamental.
Lachlan.
Neither moved. Both were looking at her with the specific intensity of two predators who have identified the same target and are processing the implications at the species level. The golden-eyed man's hands were shaking, not from cold, from restraint. The dark-eyed man's stillness was so complete it looked like a photograph. Then the golden-eyed man spoke. One word, his brother's name. The first time he'd spoken it in 120 years. And the word carried everything. Recognition, grief, rage. The specific devastation of seeing your dead brother standing 30 feet from the woman your wolf had just identified as your mate. The clearing held its breath. The boundary between werewolf territory and vampire domain ran through the center of the flat, and Maren Oakes stood on it. Exactly on it, with a hypothermic patient and two brothers who had recognized her at the same instant and who had not spoken to each other in 12 decades. The patient made it to the hospital. Maren filed her report. She drove home to her apartment above the hardware store, showered the mountain off her skin, and found both of them waiting.
It isn't simple. There are rules, and we have very little time to explain.
The time is...
They told her, in alternating sentences, trading the narrative like a relay, which was the most they'd cooperated in 120 years. Werewolves, vampires, the Cairn Pack, the Turning, Lachlan attacked by a rogue vampire at 73, turned against his will, losing the wolf and gaining the cold. The mate bond, a biological imperative in werewolf biology that identifies a life partner by scent, involuntary, irrevocable. The blood call, the vampire equivalent, identifying a compatible bloodline, equally involuntary, both activated by the same chemical signature. Hers.
It's the same chemical signature.
We both feel it, Maren.
It's the mate bond.
You are the center of this. I never agreed to that.
You're my mate. The bond is... Ooh!
She's my blood call. The resonance.
The room was silent, Gideon's heat radiating from the doorway, Lachlan's cold seeping from the wall, Maren in the center, equidistant from both, refusing both.
You shouldn't be here! You shouldn't be here.
Where should I be? The vampire domain? The crypt you pretend I live in? I'm your BR other, Gideon.
Maren watched the brothers and saw what they couldn't see. The grief. Under the anger, under the territorial posturing, under the species-level hostility. Grief. Two brothers who had lost each other 120 years ago and had processed the loss as betrayal, because betrayal is easier to carry than helplessness. The tensions escalated because supernatural politics escalate like arms races, symmetrically, predictably, and with the specific momentum of systems designed for conflict. The Pat claimed Maren as the Alpha's mate. The Coven claimed her as a blood call target. Two territorial declarations, both biological, both involuntary, both absolute, colliding over a paramedic who had refused both and was spending her evenings running avalanche drills on the mountain because the mountain, at least, followed physics. She brokered a meeting, not diplomatically, medically. She sent a text to both brothers at the same time. Trailhead, 9 p.m. You're both coming or I'm leaving Ironridge. I've left 12 towns before. I'll leave a 13th. Gideon's jaw tightened. Lachlan's stillness deepened. If you want to see whether the brothers find their way back to each other, or whether the woman between them walks away from both, subscribe to Underworld Romance. Some bonds can't be broken, even by species. Lachlan broke first, not with words, with stillness. The vampire stillness cracked, and underneath it, for the first time in 120 years, the wolf moved. She saw it in his eyes, the black irises flickering amber, a color that hadn't appeared in those eyes since the turning. The dormant wolf, hearing its brother's grief through the words of a human woman who had no pack, no bloodline, no investment in supernatural politics beyond the simple, devastating observation that two brothers were hurting and refusing to admit it. The mountain was silent. Two brothers on either side of a species divide, with a woman between them who understood what 12 foster homes had taught her. That family isn't the system that selects you. Family is the choice to stay. She waited 3 days. She spent those days doing what she always did. Rescue drills, shift reports, the methodical competence of a woman who processes the world through triage. Assess, prioritize, act. She went to Gideon first. His entire body responded. The temperature in the room rose 10 degrees. His eyes blazed gold. His hands gripped the mantelpiece and the stone cracked under his fingers. Every wolf in the timber house felt the alpha bond surge, a wave of biological authority radiating outward as the mate recognition completed. The surge settled. His breathing steadied. The golden eyes met hers, and she saw in them the specific quality of a man who has just been chosen. Not claimed, not assigned, chosen for the first time in his very long life.
You came.
Of course I did.
Everything is on the line now.
I choose you. What a true Sterling.
The room went still. 40 wolves listening.
But I have a condition.
Name
Gideon looked at her. The golden eyes carried 40 years of alpha authority and 120 years of grief, and the specific, devastating realization that a 30-year-old paramedic had just diagnosed the structural failure he'd been ignoring. Not the missing mate, the missing brother. Lachlan came to the timber house at midnight. He stood at the door the way vampires stand at thresholds, unable to enter unless invited, which in pack territory meant unable to enter unless the alpha spoke the words. The pack watched. Maren watched. Gideon stood at the center of the great room with his hands at his sides and his brother at the door, and 120 years between them.
Yes. And that she would bring you.
Come in.
2 words. The same invitation protocol. Different species, same formula. Lachlan crossed the timber house threshold in the pack bond. Dormant, buried under 120 years of vampire biology, flickered. Not fully alive, but present. The wolf inside the vampire hearing the alpha's voice and remembering what it meant to belong. Gideon crossed the room. He pulled his brother into an embrace, hot arms around cold shoulders, 109 degrees Fahrenheit against 91 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature differential audible in the hiss of the air between them. The wolf holding the vampire, the alpha holding his brother. Maren watched from the doorway, not at the center, not between them, behind them. The bridge doesn't stand between the two sides. The bridge connects them and then becomes the path they walk together. She would be the alpha's mate. She would build a life in the timber house among 40 wolves and 1 hybrid brother who ran cold and whose eyes flickered between amber and black depending on the light. She would belong, not because a system had assigned her, not because a bond had claimed her, but because she had made a choice, and the choice had required something of everyone involved. 2 brothers, 1 woman, 3 damaged people, and the specific, stubborn, chosen act of becoming a family. Some bonds don't compete, they converge.
They both recognized her. She chose what they couldn't grade each other. Subscribe body, the next bond cuts deeper.